thing moving through the woods.
All I can remember is flipping the light on, and I see this creature, and I knew in my heart, I knew in my mind, in the whole nine yards, this isn't a man.
And then this thing walks across the road, takes a turn towards us, and then leaps over a guardrail.
Went to look forward, and there was a big black thing, is all I can call it.
Welcome to Squatch-D TV, exploring the Bigfoot mystery each week with your hosts, veteran researcher, author, and TV personality, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, and from the Bigfoot Research Project of Kentucky, Chris Bennett. Sit back and buckle up as we bring you guests from around North America, discussing the Bigfoot phenomena, but not without a few laughs, too. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D TV for today's date, January 17th, 2021. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective, Steve Kulls, along with my co-host right down there.
Steve, what's happening, man?
What's going on?
You know, we actually had some snow Saturday. I woke up yesterday morning, there was an inch of snow on the ground, and I was like, oh, dude, it's like New York. But, you know, lunchtime, it was gone. So,
and I am seeing something very interesting going on. Oh, there we are. Facebook just popped in. All right. I was worried that we were not broadcasting to Facebook. I have not seen a Facebook comment, and they just started popping up.
Walt,
and of course, our guest is already here. We don't hide him backstage. We just bring him on right away. Say hello to Shane Corson. Hello, Shane-O.
Hey, Steve. Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Oh, anytime, my brother. Okay, so let's do the roll call. We have Quick Witty. Hello, Quick Witty.
Quick Witty, welcome.
And we got Lance Windsor. Good to see you, Lance.
Hey, Lance.
John Swan. Hello, John.
Big John.
And Chris, the handsome Chris, he says.
Okay, yeah. Good-looking fella there.
And he's teaching the class, but he decided to pop in anyway. Hello, Tack.
Michael, welcome.
Lisa, hello. Good to see you, Lisa.
Welcome.
John again.
John?
Sorry. And of course, we got Walt. Happy birthday, to Walt. Belated again. Well, I don't know. It was last week was his birthday. We wished him a happy birthday. Wish him again.
Happy birthday.
Of course, we got Pat. Good to see you, Pat. Terry, good to see you.
Terry.
And the great Edward from Bigfoot Podcast, Edward Manga. Yeah. And Joe Critelli is in.
Hey, Joe. Welcome.
So we got quite that where we got the house in here. And the snow is how do I get that off? Just do that. There we go. Because it kind of sometimes things scroll so fast in here. So
we had snow at 7 a.m. and by lunchtime it was gone. It was just green grass again, man. And I thought about you. I really did.
Yeah. We got to say hello to little Walt. He's on his mom's phone. Hello, little Walt.
Hi, little Walt.
And we were supposed to get 2 to 6 yesterday, and we ended up getting like 2.5, maybe 3. So, and it was very wet snow. So it was nothing. But you get like 2 inches of snow in Virginia or South Carolina or Florida, and it just closes everything. Texas, closes everything. So
just get that way around here, man. I mean, used to, everybody, you had snow tires put on in the winter and stuff. Now, nah, you don't need them. And I think it was 2013. We got like 2 feet, which is ungodly for here,
And Shane, you remember that nor'easter that hit here like a few weeks ago?
Oh yeah.
I got 3 feet. 3 feet. But the amazing thing was, as the morning came, my plow guy, my landlord's my plow guy. He shows up. It was done. We were like, okay, 20 minutes, half hour later, everything's clear. The driveway's clear. They're done.
Wow. Yeah. Up here on Kitsap County, Kitsap Peninsula, where I live up here in Washington, you get 3 feet and it shuts everything down. Yeah.
I mean, it was the most amazing thing because I saw plows, that these F-150s stuck, just being careless and trying to do more, and they get themselves in the ruts along the roadways. And so, but I was just completely amazed that we fared as well as we did. So F winter.
We're done.
We're done. Actually, you know what? I may have I think I don't know what I did with it. Hang on a second. It's gone. Never mind. I was going to say I'll show you a picture of my winter face on, but but what a heck of a. I mean, we couldn't ask for a better guest tonight, folks. And but first, I want to cover some class in one ear, you in the other. All right, so he's just
Mike.
Civil servant at work. That reminds me of a joke that I say this for. I live in New York, so there's always these New York State jokes. Right? So I'll give you a quick joke, little laugh for the night. 3 kids all bragging about how quick their father was. First kid gets up there, my father's the fastest. He picks up a bow and arrow, shoots the arrow, the target, hits the bullseye. Other kid said, "Yeah, well, my dad's faster than you." He gets on a pitch. He gets on a baseball field, gets on the pitcher's mound, throws a pitch, runs down, grabs the bat, runs out in the outfield, catches it. Well, that's pretty fast. Third kid says, "Yeah, well, my father's got you all beat. Noon every day." So.
Oh man, it's cutting out, Steve. I missed it, dude.
That's what happened. So the third kid goes, my dad works for New York State on the 7 to 3 shift, and he's home noon every day. So little. So I think that's what TAC is got going on there. But anyway, okay, boo for the joke. But yeah, there is some backlash going on in the crypto community, the paranormal community. It has nothing to do really with. I know Expedition Bigfoot has had a few episodes. I just got a heads up to wake up. I'm up. I guess there's some questions about Expedition Bigfoot 3 that TAC asked me. I'm going to be looking into that. That'll be for another show. I didn't have time to really do that. I was working, like I said. Mike didn't know this, but I was working all day, so I didn't get out and I got it late. So, but there's a lot of backlash. All these programs going off the Travel Channel and going to Discovery Plus, a streaming service that you have to pay for. And it's causing a backlash because people are like, hey, I pay for cable.
Right.
Now I got to pay for this to get shows. And I mean, Expedition Bigfoot went, Ghost Nation, which is the show with Jason Hawes, Steve Tango, and Dave Tango and Steve Gonzalez. Yeah. Kindred Spirit, normal show that was a big favorite. The new Joe Kenda show, American Detective went to, was supposed to be on investigation. They went to Discovery Plus. And then you have, of course, Expedition Bigfoot. I don't know if Mountain Monsters is going that way. Not entirely sure, but a lot of people are up in arms and mad about that. Yeah. So, especially, and a lot of the comments are like, listen, you're trying to squeeze out of everybody, and there's a pandemic still. There's still a lot of people out of work. There's still a lot of people on cut hours. I'm just blessed my company lets us,
it's the stream's locking up, Steve.
I have no idea what's going on.
I don't either. It did it last week too. Dang it.
So yeah.
Come on, Stream Guard, come on, please.
I am going to have to do another comment, I suppose.
Yeah.
But this is like the second week in a row, so I'm going to have to throw them out a message after the change or whatever. Maybe it's because we're casting the same time the StreamYard community show is.
It might be.
No, my mic is not really cutting out. It's
not you. It's a stream. Yeah,
it's the stream. It's not.
Yeah.
I can see everybody and hear everybody unbreakable, meaning that the internet is working here, and it's working at least from what I have. It's not me going out. It's not my upload speed. What it is, it's the stream itself. So.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying about the cable deal and the online thing, but I cut the cord. It's been over a year ago now, and I've been better for it. I mean, I actually have better TV now than I did on cable, and way cheaper, dude. We were paying like $200 and some bucks for the cable, and it wasn't, we had the HBOs and the Cinemaxes and all that crap, but compared to what you get now online streaming, wow, I didn't have nothing. I didn't realize what cable was. I mean, what cutting the cord meant until I did. So it's worth it. Yeah, if you cut the cord, check into it.
It's kind of funny because I have cable TV. I can afford it. It's not all that bad my way because it's bundled with my internet. So way less than what you were paying. But the fact is that if I wanted to get rid of the cable, I'll tell you right now, I got a free 6-month trial because my phone's Verizon, so I have Discovery Plus for nothing right now, and I really like it. And I'm thinking to myself, because what is on Discovery Plus? You got Animal Planet, Travel, America, you have Discovery, you have Investigation Discovery, you have so much.
America Secrets, is that on there?
History Channel's on there too.
Some of them shows you did. The Book of Secrets.
America's Book of Secrets.
Yeah.
And then if you have Netflix and Amazon Prime, we do without network television because what I watch. I watch mostly those channels. I don't sit there and watch network TV too much. It's kind of, let's face it, sitcoms, they're stupid. I'm sorry. Once in a while, there's a good one, but 9 times out of 10, I don't want to watch the trials and errors of a parent with a couple of, parents with a couple of teens, and maybe one's a space alien and they think
Disney Plus has got me, dude. I mean, I'm paying a year subscription just to watch for the next Mandalorian every time. I don't care. I'll pay a year, man. It's worth it just to see the Mandalorian when it comes out.
And Shane, I don't know if you're a Star Wars geek like Chris and I are, because we are Star Wars geeks. But they got so many shows coming on. They got the Mandalorian. They got Kenobi coming on. The Book of Boba Fett. There's so many coming on, and there's a couple others. It's like, this is good.
Yeah. I mean, Mandalorian is what I do watch that. Honestly, I when it comes to TV, I have cable. I just don't. I don't watch a whole lot of TV. Mandalorian is one show though, because my daughter loves it. She's 9 years old and loves it, and we can sit down as a family and watch it. So I do enjoy that. And I'm not a Star Wars aficionado, but I do enjoy the Star Wars series. I grew up with Star Trek, and that's been always my thing. I'm not a Trekkie, but I do like Star Trek.
Very enjoyable series. What when they started switching all the doctors in Doctor Who, I kind of like, But the years ago, it's on the Tom Baker Doctor Who.
Don't get started about Doctor Who, dude.
Uh-oh. Yeah, I think Chris is a Doctor Who fanatic.
Oh, dude, I love it. Yeah,
he's a Whoian.
Yeah, he's a
I was a Doctor Who fan until Jodie Whittaker, and I'm sorry, they wanted to have a female doctor, and that's great. But the episodes that they wrote for her to do sucked.
I'm sorry. The only
Oh no. It locked up again, Steve. Dang it.
I said for me, the only true Doctor Who was Tom Baker.
Yeah, he was a good one.
I concur, yeah.
He just fit that role perfectly. But so anyway, let's get to Bigfoot, because that's
Bigfoot.
what you tune in for. So anyway, Shane, how did this all start for you?
Oh man. So I was born and raised in Scotland. I lived on a little island called Islay off the west coast of Scotland, and my mother got me really interested in paleontology. So I just was very interested in paleontology, dinosaurs, and then I read a few books on cryptids. Got involved with everything I could get my hands on, books, TV shows, especially when it came to stuff like Loch Ness Monster, the Yeti, Mokele-Mbembe, and of course many others, including Bigfoot. And Bigfoot always really intrigued me, especially the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast of America. Had a chance, my parents, we moved to the States in 1993, down in San Diego. And growing up, I didn't do a whole lot of camping. Any camping I did was on my own. But I really loved Southern California, so I got out camping when I could. But I didn't have my own wheels then. I was still rather young. And but once again, I'm thinking, wow, I'm in California. So when I got my wheels in 1997 down in San Diego, I started investigating areas, driving places, camping, where it was Palomar Mountain or the San Bernardinos, Alpine, where the Zoobies are from, and also Yosemite. Eventually, I made it up to Yosemite, and I fell in love with Northern California. And that, wow, there's Sasquatch out there. This is where it's going to be. And I over the years, I interviewed a lot of interesting people, heard a lot of interesting tales, stories. I just never really found anything of interest. Not that I knew exactly what I was looking for, and not that I knew exactly what I was doing. What I did become familiar with was known animals: bear, cougar, deer, elk, you name it. I tried to make myself really familiar with those, both with track finds and audio. Not that I was recording audio at that time, but really listening and doing a lot of remote backpacking. Well, met my wife, and we moved up she's from Oregon. So I had a chance in 2008 to move to Oregon. And I thought, oh man, here we go. I'm in the Mecca of Bigfoot world. And once again, I'm just out camping. Any chance I could get, camping, exploring. From 2008 to 2011, I maybe found an interesting impression. I really didn't find a whole lot, but still thought there was something to it because I was still interviewing people and meeting people and talking with people. 2011, Mount Hood, I had a 2-night experience, a 2-night encounter, which solidified the existence of Sasquatch for me. I wasn't doing anything Bigfoot. It was a fishing trip. And for a couple of months after that, I thought, shoot, I know where these things are at. I'm going to prove this. I just need this. I need, equipment, you name it. I thought I needed it, but I could prove it. And I was proven wrong on many fronts. Being a bit of a smart ass, I thought I could do it, like everybody else. And what that really solidified with me is that this isn't a one-man show per se. It takes a village to raise, a child. Well, this is something I need to reach out to other individuals. And eventually I met up with a friend of Cliff Berkman's, who eventually introduced me to Cliff. And I met Derek Randalls shortly thereafter, 2012. And eventually joined the Olympic Project and became good friends with a lot of these guys, and I've been running ever since. But basically, that's in a nutshell what got me into this. It's just a fascination with these cryptids in general, but Sasquatch specifically.
Very cool. Have you ever got to see a grizzly bear in the wild?
I have not. No, Alaska's on my radar, and I've been all through Montana and Idaho, and I have not seen one. I have seen tracks, but I've never seen a grizzly bear in the wild other than, like a zoo.
Well, I would kind of like to see one in the wild, but then again, another part of me doesn't want to see one in the wild.
So I hear you.
So I got to ask Shane, because, 10 years ago next month, I spent 9 days in Scotland, down in Inverness.
Oh yeah, I know Inverness.
Oh my God, has that been 10 years, Steve?
10 years since I did the shoot.
Oh.
It actually took like 9 months to air, but it took in mid-February 2011. They flew me out to Scotland, 9 days, headed up a search on Loch Ness, which was a lot of fun. It's something out of my comfort zone, which it made me even more headstrong on it. But I gotta ask, you came over here in '93. How old were you at the time?
13.
So did it take a while for you to get the American accent down, or?
Oh man, I'll tell you. So my dad he's got a thick accent. My mom's American. That's why we can move here. She was
okay.
That's a whole nother story. But my dad still has a thick accent. Even my wife has a hard time at times understanding him. This was the tail end. Was it 8th grade? I when I got here I remember going to school and I stood out like a sore thumb. I wasn't wearing the right clothes. Back then, people were wearing their pants backwards, like crisscross. If you remember that style.
Yeah.
And I thought, why is that guy zipper on his butt? I didn't get it. And his pockets are in the front, and they're wearing red pants and yellow pants, and I didn't get it. And I was wearing everything but that. So I was first of all, the main reason I lost my accent, the girls loved it. Oh, all the girls loved me to hear me talk, but the guys hated me. And I was constantly getting into fights, constantly. And I don't back down. And so it's just constantly, fist fights. I really wanted to fit in. So I made an effort to talk like an American as much as I could. And it was a tough, that first year. And also the heat. It was, when we got over here, was we lived in Ramona, East County, San Diego. And it was, oh man, it was 95 degrees, and I'm used to like 70, 60, 80 if it's really warm.
And that's all in one day in Scotland.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly. But yeah, so I was having a hard time here. I love the area and all that, but what I really want to do is I really wanted to fit in. So I made some friends and just wanted to fit in. So I lost it as quick as I could, even though the girls liked it. I was sick of just watching my back all the time and getting in these fights. And that's mainly took a good 2 years.
It's true. Kids are cruel.
Yeah.
Kids are cruel.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. But I survived.
I remember hitting London, because I flew into Gatwick. And then I was going to take that great airline called JetBlue. Or JetBlue, or what's the other one? Not JetBlue.
Virgin, maybe?
No, Easy Air or something like that. It runs into Scotland quite a bit. But it wasn't JetBlue. It was anyway. I had like a 2-hour layover at Gatwick, maybe a 2.5 hour layover, and it awestruck me because, hey, there's cops and they're walking around with submachine guns. That was the first thing. Well, okay, that's interesting.
Cool.
And then I'm walking around and then I see, and this is Gaddafi days, mind you. This was like the final days of Gaddafi. And I remember walking past and it was like Air Libya, the Air Libya terminal. I'm like, what the hell? It was like, and you see the folks getting on there. I'm like, wow, that's pretty exotic. What the hell? So it was complete culture shock. So I got my money exchanged, which they had a machine to do that. So that was cool. I said, all right, I got to get a coffee. I get a coffee. And automatically it starts, the difference in language starts. Instead of thank you, it's cheers. And, at first I'm trying to get used to the dialect because, somebody rattles off something fast. You're like, huh? What? Oh, okay. And then you go to Scotland and it's like a whole nother dialect.
Completely different. Yeah.
But the one thing I loved is everybody had a great sense of humor there, and they were kind of really laid back considering what you would expect. I remember. So I land in Inverness, and my itinerary says, yes, we'll be meeting your driver. He will be driving a car I never friggin' heard of. I'm like, what the
Like
hell
a
is that?
ladder.
It's like they have all these cards by different names. I'm like,
Vauxhall or something.
luckily, the driver was standing there with my name on a card. I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. Hello. So, but and one of the funniest things I ever heard was we were down at the dock for the second day, and we had the puff and dive team down. They were really excellent divers, and the head of the puff and dive team is this old Royal Navy diver. And, I'm standing here with him. I'm like, I didn't notice those sheep up there on the hill on the other side of the road. And he just goes, hi, sheep, a fine animal and a fine companion.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And then we had dinner one day. We all had over to dinner, and of course the director Mike, he's from England, so he's got the England, and and finally the other guy's name was Mike too. He's like, and I could not believe. So kids, please plug your ears. That's why we don't rate this kid show for kids. But so Mike's trying to get a feel for him as we're eating dinner before we go out the next day, and he had a female diver on the team. So, but this is why it's really like you would not say this thing in the United States because it would get you in trouble. But over there, it's completely different. And he was like, so Mike goes to the diver. So, Mike, what do you usually, what's your special diving? Do you have any specialties? He goes, without saying, yeah, mainly muff. And he just, and everybody, bursts out in laughing, including the girls sitting there. And I'm like, wait a minute. We were getting our ass burned for this kind of talk in the United States.
Yeah, that sounds about right. A stubborn bunch, but definitely have a sense of humor.
Yeah. But it was an experience of a lifetime. I did try the haggis.
Oh, good on you.
And I didn't mind it. I liked it. I actually, what I fell in love with there is black pudding.
Oh, yeah, that's a staple. Yeah.
Oh, good God. But anyway, so I just wanted to relay my experiences and just the culture. Although it did take me about 4 or 5 days when I went, hey, Mike, what the hell is a lorry?
Oh, a truck, yeah. Yeah.
Because for the people who don't know, there are some major language differences. Like it'll say no lorries. What the hell is a lorry? It's a truck. Not a pickup truck that they call a truck, but any kind of box truck, tractor trailer, that's a lorry. Yeah. So I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, you gotta be up on your
lingo. Timmy Boy, thank you for that comment and welcome, Timmy Boy. Hey, Alan is in the house. Jimmy is in the house.
Jimmy, welcome.
And Amy is like, Shane who?
Oh. Amy, you bite your tongue.
Now come on, Amy. You didn't come on to your show and say Amy who?
Next time.
Good to have you here, Amy.
Yes, hey, welcome. And of course,
Charlie
Lonton's here.
Welcome.
So anyhow, so you mentioned in Quick Witty, I remember your question. I'm gonna get to it, but you mentioned you had like a 2-day experience out on a fishing trip, I believe.
Yeah.
Enlighten us. We want to hear about that.
Yeah. So I was working down in Portland, and I had a couple of buddies. One was kind of into Sasquatch. His girlfriend had a sighting years back. The other buddy of mine, Ian, he's from Boston. He had no business being in the woods, but he wanted to go. He liked to fish. So we chose this area in Mount Hood because it was remote. It was a backpacking trip with about 7 different lakes. And so we drive out to Mount Hood just for a fishing trip, a 3 to 4 day trip. We weren't really sure. Maybe we'll do 3 days. Maybe we'll do 4 days. We prepared for anything, and we take out there. We get to get on this logging road, drive 5 miles, make it to the trailhead. Get down to, after hiking in a little ways, we get down into the lake we're going to be camping in. And we had quite a bit of, early morning. So we decided to go find one of these other lakes we were going to fish, which was about 2.5 miles away. Well, we went up this ridge and got lost. We got completely turned around, dummies on our part. And we ended up getting off trail. We hiked a total that day about 17 miles, which up in those areas, it's a lot.
Yes.
I mean, just turned around, and we were basically pulling straws on which way to go. And eventually, I told these guys we're going to go this direction. And fortunately, we did make it to the lake we were looking for. By that time, it's getting dark, and we did find the trail, so it was an easy trek back, but it's a long trek back. So we're like, let's head back to camp. We know the trail. We'll come back here tomorrow and fish it. Make it back to camp. We set up a fire, cook a meal, talk for a while, and head to bed about 11:30 in the evening. We had 3 separate tents. We're camping right next to this lake, and just above us is a little bit of a hill. It's an incline. So we're kind of in this little flat gully area next to the lake. Around 1:32 in the morning, I started hearing what sounds like rocks being clanked together. It's just this weird, and it's getting closer and closer and closer. My buddy Mitch, who's off to my left, closest to the lake, says, Shane, you awake? Do you hear that? And I said, yeah, I'm awake. And so what is it? I said, I don't know. It sounds like rocks. And so we're listening, and it gets closer and closer, and it stops. And then we start hearing movement around our camp, but, quite a few yards away, but you could hear it snapping branches or walking, and couldn't really tell what it was. We're listening for a while, and I maybe we possibly heard a percussive sound like a knock, so I wasn't really sure. But so anyways, we're listening to that for a couple of minutes. My buddy Ian's snoring off. He doesn't hear any of this. And then we hear that sound start up again, and it takes off. Whatever it was at that time, it took off, and that was it. And we went to bed. Next morning, we wake up. We're getting ready to go find some of these other lakes to go fishing, and we're talking about it, and we're trying to really rationalize it. Was it elk? Could have been antlers. Could it, this deer? Right. Really no idea. We felt it was bigger than a raccoon or something like that. Something of that. It sounded big, especially the movement is what caught us off guard. Right. Well, we go out, we hike around, we fish two other lakes that day, catch our fish, had a great day out hiking, exploring, make it back to our camp, and the same sort of setup. We built a fire, and my buddy Ian, he was definitely afraid of bears. When we got lost the day prior, he literally had a pot and pan with him, and he would smack the pot and pan together because he's afraid of bears. And it was so annoying. We told him to knock it off. We were all armed. I loaned him a 9mm, which I'll get into later why that was a really dumb idea. But we get lost. He's banging these pots. We're seeing bear sign, but we never saw a bear. And up here, there's lots of bear. There's just loads of bear. So we told him to knock it off. Well, that night, both nights that we were there, the second night, he's building up a huge fire again. And I said, please don't burn down the forest. Though it's pretty hard in the Pacific Northwest because it's so wet, but he's building this huge fire, and we go to bed about 11:30, and he's just throwing this stuff on there. And we go to bed about 11:30 again. And sure enough, about 1:32 in the morning, here comes that sound again. And it's coming from a distance, and it's getting closer and closer and closer. And my buddy Mitch again, hey, Shane, you awake? I said, yeah. He said, it's back. I'm like, yeah. And it's getting closer and closer. And once again, that rock clanking sound stops. But this time, we hear movement, and it's a lot louder than the night before. It's crashing. I couldn't tell if it was smashing branches off of trees or just crunching them on the ground. It sounded like a bit of both. And Mitch is hearing something off to his left. I'm hearing something off to my right. And we're kind of in like a triangular shaped formation. His tent's here. I'm kind of in the middle, and Ian's on the outskirts. We're a few feet apart. And he's hearing some off to the left. I'm hearing some off to the right. So I'm thinking, well, there could be two of whatever the heck this is. And that crashing stops. And then 5 of the most powerful, I've never felt or heard anything quite like this. And I've heard something similar, but not quite like this. 5 of the most powerful, I guess you call them power knocks on a tree. Just bam, in a row. Bam, bam, bam. And you could feel them in your tent. You could literally feel the vibration in your tent. They were so powerful and very close. Yeah. And my heart now, because we're in the middle of the woods, we're out there a ways, and I'm dealing with something unknown, and it's powerful. I knew it was powerful. And my head the wheels start burning. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're gonna die. My heart is in my head, and never heard any vocals. If there was, probably because I could only hear the beating of my heart. Well, after that, it stops. Those 5 whacks, and there's a bit of silence, and it's just you got the woods up there. And Amy Boo's been out there before, and she knows it is deathly quiet at night. So we're listening. There's just nothing. My buddy Ian is finally awake. He's like, expletive. What is going on? I said, shut up. So we're listening, and then over through the trees, I hear something coming down, and it's hitting branches, and then thud right next to my buddy Mitch's tent. And he's closest to the lake. There's a little bit of mud out there, and we both knew what it was. He goes, "You know what that was?" I said, "That was a freaking rock, something." So now I'm thinking, okay, you got to be freaking kidding me. This is really happening. I mean, really happening. And I mean, it was just gnarly. As that rock comes down in, my buddy Eno here is freaking out. I gave him earlier to calm him down, and not that a 9mm is going to do anything to a bear. We were packing heavier calibers, but I thought he's going to come out of the tent, and start shooting somebody or shooting something, and he had no business holding a gun. He had no training, and I'm thinking, I hope he doesn't have one locked and loaded. So I told him, "Calm down, I'm coming over." So I'm unzipping my tent, and I'm looking around, and I'm just peering around, and right in front of me, 40 feet away or so, I see something swaying. And what I see is an arm around this huge Douglas fir, huge pine tree. And I see an arm around the front of this tree and the hand, and it's running up. I see the shoulder, and I see this thing swaying back and forth, just back and forth. And it's massive. And I'm thinking it's looking right at me. And I'm like, okay, I'm dead. But what it did was, I think it either saw me, probably both, or heard me unzip the zipper, even though I tried to do it as quietly as I could. I don't think it was quiet enough. And what it did was it took its arm off, dropped it down to its hip. It did this little spin move and went down the trail and disappeared. And that was it. Wow. And so I sat there for a few seconds. I zipped my tent back up, and I laid down. And none of us spoke after that till daylight. And as soon as daylight hit, we packed up and got the heck out of there as quick as we could. Really didn't talk about it on the way home, a little bit here and there, but I didn't even share with them until later what I had seen. I was just so dumbstruck. We're on it here. I'm into the subject matter. I've been and we're on a fishing trip. We weren't doing any calls, we're chopping wood, stuff like that. And I was just absolutely floored and in some aspects petrified in a lot of ways. And long story short, like I said earlier, I thought I could prove the existence of this. And I really started thinking, why you don't hear of 2-night encounters very often. It's very rare. And I thought, why? And the only thing I can come up with all these years is that, and I've been back out there and had nothing happen, but I've been back out there and had some significant stuff happen. But all I can think of is that we got lost way up on this ridge line, and it's a ways up. It's a hike, and we were way off trail. And probably the Sasquatch or Sasquatches, I don't know. I only saw the one. I assume there was more than one based on what we're hearing. But we just disturbed something, and we were way off trail up on this ridge line that overlooked the lake we were camping on. And it came down twice and said, get out. And then we didn't leave the first night. So it upped the ante and said, get out, and banging the tree, throwing the rock. It could have hit. I mean, that rock was a good softball sized rock. It could have hit. I mean, he could have nailed. I don't know how it missed the tents to begin with. Very accurate. And I think we just disturbed it, banging pots up there on this ridge line, urinating, walking around, being loud and obnoxious. Yeah. Just like, get out of here.
So my question would be is were you guys all sleeping when you started hearing this rock clacking, or are you guys just hanging out?
I'm sure the rock. Oh, I'm sure we were sawing logs. Yeah, we were all asleep. Yeah.
And that, to me, that makes a lot of sense, because what I think that may be is, they're coming upon the scene. They see the tents, obviously, and now they're not sure if people are in the tents. So they start trying these little things to provoke movement. A rock throw, some clacking, maybe a tree knock or two. Mm-hmm. And that way they can say, okay, there's movement, so we can't move in, because I think I go back to this Navajo story where these guys left their camp and their camp was ransacked afterwards. And there was there was tracks all over the place. And that came from a Navajo forest ranger. He had to go up there to get the stuff, and they didn't mention the tracks to him, but the rangers saw them. So, and they're a lot more open on the Navajo res than they are like in the United States Forest Service. So, a bunch of questions coming up. And Mick, before we go, Mick wanted to say Happy Meatloaf Day. Good to see Shane tonight. So here's a couple of questions. Tack wanted to know, during the fish trip, did you smell anything off during the encounter?
No, never did. Definitely did not smell anything weird. that was one of those things I had to go back and recollect. But definitely none of us, not one of us smelt anything off or weird. Not even when we were up on that ridge line. Like I said, we saw a lot of bear sign up there. And maybe some of it wasn't bear sign. I don't know. But a lot of it was definitely bear sign. But we never smelt anything. And like I said before, if there was any grunts or vocals, like I wasn't putting audio out. This was a fishing trip. So if there was any grunts or vocals, I never heard anything.
Because I do see, and what I like is the progression of everything. You hear this like rock clacking, and somebody on the skeptical side, well, you do know bears do smack their lips a bit especially when they get a little stressed. They start that type of movement, and that's a sign of stress. But then you add into, it's getting, the tree knocks, and not just one tree knock, but like 5.
Oh, yeah.
And what I've learned, and I don't know if you agree or disagree with me on this, but the single tree knock, which a lot of people hear, sometimes you have to discount them because, especially in the wintertime, I was going out to my car right out here, and I heard the loudest tree knock you could ever hear. And what it is the cold and heat makes that tree expand. So they pop. They when they expand, they pop. And it was getting warmer. So
I totally agree. Yeah, totally agree.
So it's kind of like, but when you hear like, a number in a row, then hey, this isn't a tree expanding. When you're sure, get tipped over, that isn't a tree expanding.
Right. Yeah, we get a lot of that up here in the Pacific Northwest. A lot of pop sounds like that, like the singular ones. And of course, up here, I don't care how far away, someone's always blasting off a gunshot. But when you can, when they're that close in that number and you can feel them in your tent, it's pretty profound. And like you said, Steve, the singular ones, a lot of times you just have to toss them out the window. It could be, sure. Yeah. But you know what? The forest, just like animals, can make a lot of weird sounds.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, Shane, the one you saw that night, can you remember, was his arm around the front of the tree? Or was it around the back? Was it around the front? It was
standing behind the tree with its arm around the front of the tree. Yeah. And Doug, it's a huge tree. Yeah. And I could roughly tell you, I didn't get a whole lot of it, but I could tell you roughly how tall it was because there was a branch right above its head.
Yeah.
Which was about 7.5 feet off the ground. And I remember looking at that branch where its head, when it was swaying back and forth, and it would bump it. And so it had to be at least 7.5 feet tall.
Perfect. That's why I always try to remind everybody, if you see one near a tree, don't pay so much attention to the creature. Look up and see the first branch. Yeah. And try to remember how much distance that was between the top of his head and that branch. You can go back. You can go back later and measure that branch.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. That was just one of those pure. It just happened. I probably wouldn't have noticed it, but it would knock it and would move the tree branch. So that's the reason I knew somewhat of a scale. Behind that tree, having gone back there later on, and it could have been there before. I don't know, but it was dug out like a bear would do looking for grubs. So behind that tree was dug out quite a bit. I don't know that play. There wasn't any impressions. It's really hard ground, but you do have the reason we felt the knocks, no doubt about it, is because up there especially up in Mount Hood and a lot of these sports up here, you got such a root system that it's almost like hollow ground. So like you can come down a trail and you could hear somebody coming because it'll kind of make that, you kind of feel and you can kind of hear that hollow sound to it. So that's part of the reason we felt those knocks, because it just reverberated right through the ground.
Around Mount Hood, there's a lot of, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it a lot of mossy growth in the woods?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Old man's beard. Lots and lots of moss. I mean, it's not, I'm up in Washington now. You get up here and you're in a rainforest down there, but there's still a lot of moss down there and very, very wet.
So we have a question up here from Mick. He said, Shane, did you get the impression that there were more than one creature in the vicinity? If so, how many would you guess? And did they come from the same direction?
Oh, that's a good question. I stated before, my buddy Mitch and I, we perceived at that night, the second night specifically, that there was more than one, because he was hearing moving off, crashing to his left, and I'm hearing something off to my right. And you guys understand, it was at times really close, 30, 40 feet, maybe closer. My opinion is there was at least two. I could be wrong. Like I said, I only saw the one, but my impression was there was at least two. And both nights, at least what I had heard in Mitch, was that it would come from the same, or at least the one came from the same direction, because that rock clanking sound, and I say rock clanking, I don't know for sure. I didn't see a Sasquatch with two rocks in his hand, but it sounded like you grabbed two, creek pebbles and bashed that perfect,
Right.
And so, but same direction both nights in a row, and it would start. That was like the crescendo, or it started out, but you'd hear it coming and it get closer, like it was walking, doing that as it's going. That was my impression. Do close, and then stop. And so yeah, more than one, I assume. And real quick, so my dummy, I didn't do any research on this area. This wasn't an area that was on my radar for looking into. This was a totally new area to me. But having gone back and looked at this area historically for reports, I was blown away. I was in such a great location.
Oh, wow.
This is an area that Joe Beilhardt, who wrote Oregon Bigfoot Highway, this was one of his old stomping grounds. Tom Powell, even Cliff Barrickman. I had no idea, not necessarily the lake I was at, but the general vicinity. And I didn't find a whole lot of reports, like say on the BFRO or any other ones. What I had done, and this took me about a good 6 months, I started looking everywhere. I found reports in hammock forums. I found reports in AR-15, gun forums, about people going out to fishing forums, nothing Bigfoot related, but people saying, hey, I saw this there, or we got chased out, or we had rocks. Some crazy bear was throwing a rock at us. Same lake, same area, and I had no idea.
You know when the guest has got the audience captured because the chat has been silent.
Yeah.
You got people on the edge of their
Maybe
seat.
I put them to sleep.
No, not. So there are a couple of questions. SoCal Squatch asked Shane about the nest. So
What nest?
Okay.
Not kidding. Yeah. So one of the most exciting things I think the Olymp Project as a whole has been working on since 2016 are these really, really strange ground nests that a timber surveyor, a logger timber surveyor, came across in 2016. Got a hold of Derek Randalls because 10 years prior, Derek Randalls, as a landscaper, had done work for this guy. And he took Derek Randalls, James Millian of the Olymp Project out to this area, and a couple of DNR guys, Department of Natural Resources, and one of the logging owners of this private timber company. And this surveyor that went out to this area, he'd been surveying spots by himself in remote areas for 27 years, and he had never come across anything like what he came across in this area that is 2.5 miles behind a logging gate and way off trail. And it had been logged in 50 plus years. So they're getting ready to basically put in a cut, mark it and cut it. And he came across two of these nests and he freaked out. And that's when he got a hold of the Derek and James and the DNR guys and his boss. And they all go out there again. And that day they found 7 more, total of 7 nests. And all of them, in over 200 years of woods experience combined, none of them had ever seen anything like these ground nests that were anywhere from 3 to 4 feet across to 8.5, 9 feet across. And they were in a kind of a V formation. And basically this area is just, it's, you got this ridge line and you got these plateaus or fingers that come down this ridge line. So if you're looking at your knuckles and you extend your fingers, the ridge line would be your knuckles. And you got these fingers that come out and they're out, separated by 300 yards or so, maybe a little bit less in some cases, a couple hundred yards. And these nests are built on the edge of these fingers or these plateaus. and right below that is a seasonal salmon creek that literally at certain times of year you can walk across a salmon. That's how much salmon gets stocked up in here that are spawning out.
Wow.
And so these nests are they're still absolutely amazing. The point nest, as I call it, the nest that was at the very point in this V formation. There was 2 rocks sitting above the ground, and they had obvious score marks on them. James Millian walked over, picked them up, and he turns them over, and on both sides of the rock, there's clear white marks where something had smacked these rocks together at some point in time. These nests, we brought in Dr. Jeff Meldrum out, and we deconstructed a couple of nests to take samples. And Dr. Meldrum had noticed that the huckleberry boughs, and I should backtrack a little bit. These nests are completely made out of evergreen huckleberry boughs. That are, some of them have been taken off a foot off the ground, some of them over 8.5 feet off the ground. No claw marks, no teeth marks, as Dr. Meldrum will tell you, and myself and many others. This took something with a opposable thumb. They're clean breaks. Some are just twisted, some are ripped off, but they were transported not just in that general area, but some of these boughs came from over 20, 25 feet away to construct this nest. Yeah. And Dr. Meldrum had noticed when we deconstructed one that some of these huckleberry boughs were actually pushed into the ground, and then the nest was formulated and weaved around that. And one of the other things I noticed, besides that, these nests are over a foot in depth of huckleberry and very comfy, very mattressy, and completely made out of huckleberry. We noticed that there was little piles of huckleberry leaves, like they were plucked off and piled. For what purpose? I got a couple ideas, but I don't know. And then one of the most interesting things I thought was that not all the huckleberry in this little area. You go outside this area, you couldn't see these nests. You have to literally walk in on them. But all the leaves have been plucked off these huckleberry vines, and in some cases the huckleberry was not broken but twisted behind something. And what that gave you was a direct view of the next nest over. So it was just like, I can't see that nest, I'm going to move this branch. And it would be twisted and pushed behind something so that you could get, especially some of the smaller nests that needed direct view. Say, hypothesizing, throwing spitballing here. Say it was a family unit of Sasquatch, just for example, and you have little ones. Well, being a father or mother, you always want to have eyesight of your kids. Right. So that would be perfect to twist a branch behind something and do that. Now, these nests, Derek Randles had done a lot of research after coming across these nests. And the closest thing we've come up with is they look so identical to, they look like a giant bird's nest, but very, very reminiscent of what gorillas do in the wild. And in fact, we've had a couple of zoologists out there that are part of our Project Zoo Book group with Amy Boo. And they were blown away, flabbergasted, and they work directly with different primates, including, great apes, gorillas, bonobos, chimps, and all that. And they could actually see character in some of these nests on how they were constructed, like they were individually made by different entities. I thought that was fascinating. And this area historically has got a lot of reports. It's got a lot of really neat audio recordings. And to date, we have found 24 nests. Now, for 4 years after this discovery, we would go to like the next finger over, and we would find some more nests there and more nests on the next one. And we found up until then about 23. And 2 of these nests are actually built in the huckleberry. So they're off the ground. They're very small, and they're actually built into the huckleberry bushes a couple feet off the ground. But they're a mirror image of what's built on the ground. And once again, not saying we have a silverback gorilla roaming up here in the woods, but that's what female gorillas do, mother gorillas do, teach their young to build nests in bushes. And I thought that was fascinating because you have one of these huckleberry nests, but in a bush. Won't hold any weight. It's very, very practice-like. And so we for 4 years, we were adamant that we're going to find more. Like I said, we found 23 over that year and a half, searching this area out. We found impressions, and casted them and all that good stuff, doing audio recording. We didn't find another, brand new nest site or anything until February of this year, or last year, excuse me. February of last year, Todd Hale and I were out in an adjacent ravine in pretty remote area, and we walked in on something during our camping trip, making one of these nests. Literally, we didn't see it, but we heard it. It was very large. It sounded bipedal. It actually circled up behind us, kind of freaked me out. Because bears out here, we bump into bears all the time. And bears, almost 10 times out of 10, will just take off, run, boom, gone. Whatever this was, as we get down into this area, and a different, this is a couple of thousand feet away, it circled up behind us. And so we backtrack out, never saw it, decided to go back in and see where this thing originally was, because we heard this thing down on this other finger. And sure enough, I start seeing all these huckleberry breaks like we would see in the other nest sites. And I went, wow. And you could see a trail where someone's been walking around very heavy-like. And I told Todd, it's getting dark. We got to go set up our camp still. Let's head back. We'll get Derek out here. He's got to drive to get out here, but we'll get a hold of him. So next day, get a hold of Derek Randles. His wife comes out. Todd and I are out there, and we go out to this area. And sure enough, here's this huge huckleberry pile that's starting to be formed into a nest. And there's foot impressions. And so we're just blown away. And we're going to have Dr. Meldrum come out. We could see hair. We had all these samples, and then COVID hit, and we decided, it really destroyed a lot of this. But Meldrum, we told him not to come out. So what we ended up doing was I got a hold of Cliff Berrickman. He's a good friend of ours. He lives down the road. So he came up and he helped us cast some foot impression stuff. But what was really neat, hold on so I can find it. Hold on.
Oh, show and tell. Love it.
So we actually casted some hand impressions found out in this area by James Millian, which it's really funny because you probably can't see that great. You'll be looking at like this.
I can make it out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So let me set that down. So we had told we had told
hold it up again, Shane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. There we go. That's better. It's better than my ugly mug. So I mean, here's the thing. So we had told basically where we had heard this thing circle up behind us. James went out there and he was gone probably a good hour, and he came across this hand impression. Actually, two of them. The other one didn't turn out that great, but you could see where this thing, had basically it's a really steep hill, and it had basically pushed itself down, and I think maybe launched itself up the hill to circle around behind us. If indeed is what I'm looking at is a Sasquatch. Once again, I didn't see a Sasquatch make a hand impression, but that is a hand impression.
Yep.
So, anyways, Cliff came out and helped us cast that. We ended up finding another partial hand impression by the bedding material, by the nesting material. And we find, I think we casted 4. Todd Hill found a really good track. And all these impressions in that area were about 14 inches, which I find interesting because that's the same size as Patty, right, Patty? And we casted all those, and we just were really flabbergasted with the amount of destruction in this area. And I actually felt kind of guilty because we literally walked in on something collecting this material from all around this area, and we broke it up, and it did not come back. What we did find on the ground, once again, was piles and piles of huckleberry leaves where they'd been plucked off the huckleberry and just put in a pile, kind of like cone-shaped pile. Right. And the nest, which I assume that's what it was doing, wasn't completed, but it was all collected. Now, one of the questions people ask me all the time is, do you think Sasquatch makes nests all the time? Why don't we find more nests? And my assumption, my idea is that no. I personally think that these nests are made for a birthing scenario, and I say that for a number of reasons. One, there was actually a nest found in Bluff Creek in 1967 above Scorpion Creek by a guy named Lyle Laverty. Daniel Perez interviewed him, and this guy was he worked for a timber company way off trail. These aren't places where people are going to be hiking, exploring, or hunting. They're off trail. It's nasty brush. Like in the area we're working right now, the huckleberry can be over 9 feet tall. You can't see a few feet in front of you. You have to be careful because many times we've jumped bear, but once again, they take off. So these are very remote and hard to get to areas, and there have been nests found historically. 9 times out of 10, they're always found by somebody in working for the timber company, and usually a timber surveyor. And so we now think that these nests are being made mainly in the month of February and March, whether they're made every year or every 4 years, because we just came across a brand new one in the making 4 years later. But it also happens to coincide with good salmon runs in these rivers. And the huckleberry up here is so amazing. It's so thick at certain times of the year, and it'll actually survive a lot of frost. There's still huckleberry out there right now. I was just out in this general vicinity, and there's still huckleberry to be plucked. And so the reason I think this may be a birthing scenario is not just based on the size of the nest and the practice nest and all that, but my good friend Wes Lim of Squatchermetrics asked me, hey, do you know there's a medicinal purpose with the huckleberry leaves? And I said, I had never thought of that. And so lo and behold, the huckleberry leaves themselves, they used to give them to women after childbirth with a mixture of sugar to regain their strength, to get their strength back. And I thought, well, maybe, just maybe, if this is Sasquatch related, that maybe they're eating the huckleberry leaves after birth to regain their strength. And maybe that's why they're piled up. Or maybe the huckleberry leaves are just going to be tossed in the middle of the nest as a comfort thing. I don't know. This is all speculation.
Well, we all know the Squatches love to take advantage of anything they can eat. So who knows?
Who knows?
But, Mick had asked, aside from the size of the nest, is there any corroborated evidence to indicate they're being used by Sasquatch as opposed to bears or ungulates? Well, I think you've answered that question with the handprints, and to me, especially the branches and the height.
Oh man,
of where they've been snatched from. So that is really, truly an amazing find. That is awesome. I'm kind of, flabbergasted by it, actually. Wow, that's pretty cool. Now, you had mentioned something about them taking the fingers and using part of the finger as to kind of possibly cover their like they take one side of it, correct, and they kind of build around it. Now, the interesting thing is, in 2000, I had found off trail a something really I thought was kind of interesting, and that was an overturned tree with a huge, big root that was probably about 7-8 feet tall.
Oh wow!
And with it just came over, boom, tipped over. And we have a lot of birch, maple, and oak. And this was a maple tree that had tipped over. And built around it were these sticks, almost kind of leaned up against them. And including some birch. And there wasn't a birch tree within 100 yards of it.
So transported, yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. But the bottom were just rocks. Yeah. So it wasn't something that was going to be used as a hunting blind because it would have been uncomfortable as hell. But then again, I don't know how. It must have been maybe about 5-6 years later. The Northern Sasquatch Research, other part of the same area, maybe a couple of miles from where I was, and they found something very similar. It was embedded into the ground, and everything was leaned up against it. And it included some stuff that had been transported. So when
the stream's locking up on me, Steve.
Don't worry, it's cutting in and out, but it's very short-lived. The cool thing is, in replay, this will not short out. I noticed that. I noticed that too. When I download the episode, it actually records the entire thing. And but what I believe, you're looking at cultural differences. They're using just like chimpanzees. They may use different, but the methodology is the same. They're using some natural resource to help build some cover. And use these things, and the obviously the substances they're using are different because they live in different geographical areas.
Right.
So
yeah, the cultural thing is huge, and it's funny you mentioned that. It's something we've been looking into more and more. I know, like I said, Squatchometrics. It's something with his data he's been compiling that he's really looking at the cultural stuff, because look at chimps, for example, how they can be using some sort of tool in one area and a completely different tool in another, or have different characteristics within their own little units. And before people attack me, I'm not saying Sasquatch is this, chimp or, much. It's obviously much smarter and all that, but there are similar characteristics and differences with the cultural thing, as you said, Steve.
Yeah. Well, they're all primates. So primates to an extent have a lot of these commonalities. And, you don't think chimps are smart. They have a lot of forethought too. They problem solve outside the scope. They think about it. They have abstract thought. So, and if a Sasquatch is even smarter than them, and we don't see chimps using fire. We don't see them using advanced type of tools, but, you think about smart. Imagine a Sasquatch, because that's got to be. I almost bet and hedge that they're closer to us. Yeah. The cool thing is, and now I'm going to ask you some questions too. Just your opinions. Tapetum lucidums, the mechanism in the eye which gives that eye shine and night vision. What's your thoughts?
If I think I caught yeah, I think I caught your question. You mean as far? I might have missed it. Were you talking about bioluminescence or? No, I was talking about the actual mechanism in their eye. Do they there's 12 lower species of primates that have a tapetum lucidum. And the funny thing is that their eyes in natural light kind of almost look like a reddish brown, almost like it kind of gives them that reddish color.
Do you think that a Sasquatch may have it?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility for sure. I mean, there's so many reports out there that kind of show that that's likely, right? Which kind of separates it from a lot of other things, obviously. I definitely think that's a possibility and maybe very likely.
Yep. Hey, Chris, take over for one quick second. I'm gonna check on something real quick.
Yeah, man. I wanted to ask Shane anyway on the nest location, Shane, where these things were found. The ground, were they on level ground, or was it on the side of a hill, like a sloping location, or was it a combination of both?
The very end of these plateaus and fingers are where these things are located. So the quick escape route to go right down the deep ravine there, yes. Which is pretty steep, but generally speaking, pretty flat. I will say there's a little bit of decline on these ridges, these fingers, a little bit of a decline. I mean, it just, I watched enough National Geographic program stuff. It's so reminiscent of what gorillas do, where they place them, like the cross river gorilla. And if you look at some of those species, it's amazing where they build them and how they build them. They're very finicky. They got to be close to certain plants and water and this and that. Right. These are an area where you can't sneak into this area. You could hear somebody calling a mile away through that brush because it's so thick. You can't sneak into this area. And as soon as I would imagine somebody walked in there, these things could just disappear really quick. If I was running from the law or something, I couldn't think of a better spot. The tree canopy. I remember Cliff Berkman brought one of his drones out, and it just wasn't going to happen. The canopy's too thick. The trees are too close together. Wasn't going to happen.
That makes sense. Are you aware? Are they doing any sweeps for the eDNA now? Or is that something still on the table? It's
still on the table. We had done a little bit of that with Dr. Meldrum had collected some samples for eDNA. We sent them off to Todd Disatel. Unfortunately, those samples were kept in a freezer for, here we go again, right? They were kept in a freezer a little bit too long, so they were degraded. A lot of known animals were found. There was human DNA found. We were very careful about collecting these samples, and especially from a nest that we hadn't sampled or touched. The human aspect, what percentage couldn't tell us. So it could have been, like a chimp. It could have been 98.5 or 9. Right. So, I mean, who knows? But we have many nests we haven't sampled from, touched, been around, because we're very careful about this. That's why we brought Dr. Meldrum out, because we wanted to collect this as properly as we could. Right. And we have other individuals that are experts in that field now that can do it. So I'm hoping down the road here, to get some samples set off. We have loads of hair and all that, but we've had hair looked at before from Cindy Dosen of Homni Enigma out of British Columbia, and Dr. Meldrum in his lab have looked at them, and they're some of these hairs are primate. They lack a medulla. They're uncut, untinted, but they do have a reddish pigment to them, which is very common with a lot of Sasquatch sightings. Right. And they range in size. Some of these hairs are, half inch to an inch, a little bit smaller. I often say they're very, I guess this is an adult show, pubic hair-like in a lot of aspects, which makes them very interesting because I know what a elk hair looks like, a deer hair, a raccoon hair. In fact, one of the nests had raccoon hair in there. The funny thing was, it was a dead raccoon when it was in the nest. And that was interesting because in these areas, we found what is called witch's broom, and they're like a fungal growth up in the trees. Now, some of these nests in two different locations had this fungal growth. Well, we actually paid a professional climber to go 90 plus feet up in a tree and inspect this, because we thought maybe they were a tree nest, which they weren't. It was witch's broom. I figured that out. But they had raccoon trails going in and out of them, and because I'd taken a sample, I had him cut down some of this witch's broom, and there was raccoon hair, guard hair found in there. And I'm thinking, well, you got a nest right here. You got that fungal growth up top. That raccoon's got to come out of that tree at some point in time. And there happened to be dead raccoon hair in the nest. So, maybe a snack. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. So we got any more questions over here? Let's see.
We got a ton going on here.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out which one to come up with.
Well, we got Sasquatch are smarter than chimps because they don't fling feces in the wheel. That would be kind of messy.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but who knows?
Unless they poop rocks. I don't know.
Oh, this is a good one from Mick. It says, in view of some native Sasquatch folklore, that mention abductions of humans and the Albert Ostman encounter, do field researchers worry about being absconded by a Sasquatch? What do you think, Shane?
You know, I think I respect all animals of the woods because I bump into a lot of bear. We just do. It's just going to happen. There's so much bear up here, and big bear. There's, we don't really have any wolves particularly in this area, but they're around, and I respect all animals. I don't care if it's an elk or a deer. Anything can kill you. You can disappear really easily from known animals. Sasquatch, it's a possibility. Do I fear it? No, I don't. Is it possible though? Sure. Yeah. I think, given the wrong circumstance, like you walking on a mama bear and her cub, that could be a bad spot in between them. You often think, what happens if you're out hiking and you just happen to see a little Sasquatch? Well, mama's probably not too far behind. That could be a bad spot to be in. Hypothetically speaking. So, wrong place, wrong time. You get a male that's, maybe he's in heat, and he's looking for, and he just got this testosterone buildup. That could be a bad spot to be in, whether it's a known animal or a Sasquatch. So I respect all of this stuff. And I take precautions as much as one can. We're in cougar country. We got so much cougar on our cameras. I think I've seen one cougar outside of a camera. They're all around. You just never see them. So it's just about being prepared in a healthy respect and knowing that you're not the meanest, baddest thing in the woods.
Yeah, you said something earlier too that I liked. That before you went into the area, you familiarized yourself with the wildlife and what the sounds were, and that's something that's so important for people to do. Man, I can't stress that enough. That's so smart because otherwise, if you go out there in a strange area and you're not used to the wildlife there, and you hear a noise, you're gonna think, it's Bigfoot.
It'd be like me coming out and visiting with you guys out in New York and then going out in the woods. I don't know half the animals out there, the sounds they can make. That'd be ridiculous. And it's very important to get to know the fauna out in the area and the sounds. And you got to spend years at it. Chris Spencer's a good friend of mine, and he's been working in one area for 5-6 years now, and he can actually name the different coyotes. That's how familiar he is with them, looking at the sounds visually. And there's something to be said about that because you walk into a room. I say this often. Middle of the night, you're walking in a room and you stub your toe. You're going to make noises you did not know you're capable of making. And so I'm sure animals are the same way. They're out in the woods. They stub a toe or something. You may not recognize that sound regardless if you're familiar with it. So it's just about consistently recording and observing your known environments before you really come to any conclusions and you got to roll all that stuff out first.
And there is a lot of resources on the web too. Before you go out, look it up. Just a little plug for, squatchdetective.com. We do have an audio library that has a lot of these sounds on there. Fox, coyote, raccoon. How long they've been up there, I forgot what I've got on there, but I also have some other primate sounds too, baboons, gibbons, as well.
I hope you've got that Strix roofites, or what I call Strix roofipes in Kentucky. That's that owl that sounds like a chimpanzee. That's a real important one to know, and you got to check and see if that's in your area before you go into the woods, because you can go in the woods late at night and you hear ooh, 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 ha, ha, think, oh my gosh, it's a monkey.
You want to hear something? You want to know something really cool? What's been going on around my house lately is I'm so used to hearing barred owls, right? Well, the other night I'm out, let the dog out. He comes back in. I'm on the back, freezing my tush off, but smoking a cigarette. And I hear, ooh, 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 ooh. I go, that's not a barred owl.
What is that?
What do we have here? So I'm dang curious to see what kind of owl that is, but it was not a barred owl. And if anybody has never heard a barred owl in their rut or their mate, they sound very primate-like too.
Yeah.
Oh man, like a cackle. Up here we have the barred owls too, and if you get a group of them together, you think you're at the zoo. I mean, they got that little, and they're crazy up here. But if you're unfamiliar with that, your mind's gonna play tricks on you,
Right.
Along with the screech owl or a cougar whistle or a fox scream. I mean, they'll sound like a fox scream will sound like a woman dying. It's crazy.
I remember the first cougar whistle I ever heard. I remember I was at the bar and I heard. I'm like,
Oh, that's terrible.
Oh man!
Sorry, had to do it.
That was good.
Let's see. Dave Winter asked, "Where's Shane living now? In a house?" I would say that was safe to assume.
Most of the time, I'm a lot of time in the woods. My wife actually is like, "You gonna come home?" No, Mason County up here in Washington State. It's on the Kitsap Peninsula. It's a beautiful area. I'm in the woods, and I'm a very blessed man. I love it.
David also said he makes old people sounds out there.
I wonder what they think of that. I love that. David, do you sit out on a rock or a stump or something, then get up? When you get up, you go, ugh. I do.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. Nick says if you hollering and barreling through the woods with a fatal case of constipation. If you
no. That sounds deadly.
That meatloaf.
How we digress. But you got to understand, animals have their own natural defenses. I think Sasquatch is evasion. Humans, we complain. That's our.
That'll do it.
Good point, Steve.
We complain.
We do.
Winter, summer,
dude. Shane you got real loud here. Did your mic turn up, or is it just me?
Hopefully it's just you. I haven't touched anything.
Okay.
Yeah, he just leaned forward for a second like this.
Okay,
sorry.
That's what it was. That's what it
Hello,
was.
yeah. Hello.
Steve had me laughing, so
I have my big, $6 headset here, so
Yeah. Chris,
I saw a comment about that earlier.
Chris has the dollar store microphone and mine cuts out. Figure that one out.
No. It was Rosie's. Or roses. Yeah, roses.
Petunias. Anyway. Yeah, Dave said he's going to stand out there and shake my cane.
Shake your cane.
So somebody asked a question, how are you moving forward with the study of the Bigfoot nests?
Right now, we're compiling data because like we tell people all the time within Limb Project, we're not out necessarily to prove the existence of Sasquatch. We just want to collect as much data because I can speak for the group. We do believe that there will be a point in time where Sasquatch is proven to exist, and so we're just collecting as much data as we can. So that's what we're doing with the nest. Now, don't get me wrong. To sit on something like this, whether it's Sasquatch or not, and I fully believe this is Sasquatch related. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I can live with that. I don't believe so. Well, you got to do something with this. And so, we've been working with a lot of different sciences, academic individuals, anthropologists, archaeologists, zoologists, in formulating ideas and opinions, collecting stuff, soil samples, hair samples, the actual huckleberry themselves, studying the, like I said, medicinal purposes. We're coming at this from all sorts of fronts. And our goal is to find, actually, the end of February, I'm taking a small group out. We're going to be out for about a week in this area. We never camp in the actual nest areas. We camp a couple hundred yards away. We'd like to do our audio and stuff. We don't camp near this ravine. We camp this time around. We're going to be camping a little bit closer. We're going to be a little bit further in the woods. And we're actually just going to be going out looking for, the usual stuff, right? Impressions and hair and of course more nests. We're hoping, because our goal is predictability. We're really thinking that these nests are made in the month of February and March, for obvious reasons with the salmon runs and the ungulates in this area and everything else that's going on there. Maybe not every year. Maybe it's every 4 years. Maybe it's a cycle. Who knows? I mean, it's got a long-term experiment here. We don't know, but they are being made. And it seems to be this time of year that they're made. So we're about just collecting as much data, making discerning what patterns of predictability may be there or not there, and working with certain academic individuals to see if we can come up with an answer. eDNA is a great way to go. I've been talking with Doug Hychek, of a Monster Quest fame. He's got some fantastic ideas. He's working on some really unique angles, and just a fantastic guy, very smart guy, forward thinking. So, we're just, it's a play it by ear, day at a time here, but we're constantly upping our game and bringing the right folks, I think, into the mix. Nobody at OP is above anybody. We don't have egos. We're simpletons in a lot of aspects, and I'm okay with that. I love, what we do. Hoping that this is I'm a little bit shocked in some circumstances that more academic individuals aren't looking at some of this stuff, not just what the OP's doing, but with other individuals doing. There's tons, like you guys, there's tons of fantastic individuals out there in groups, but man, these nests are probably the most exciting thing I've ever worked on, and coming across, one in the making and possibly having an encounter, which I never dreamed I would ever have again. Been around the block, seen a lot of stuff, heard a lot of stuff. But this for me was really special. So hopefully down the road, there'll be more updates on this stuff. Playing it by ear, but we keep a lot of this close to home. We don't try to sensationalize it more than it is. And that's just, we get, I know you, Steve, have been the same way. We get contacted all the time as an organization for TV shows and all the time. And very, very rarely do we do them anymore because, they want rights to this. They want you to do this. And we don't need fame. We don't need any of that. But working with certain individuals, like Seth Breedlove came out and did something with us. The guy's a stellar human being. So that was great. And we'll see what happens down the road here with some other stuff. So I'm hoping that down the road here, we'll get a few more individuals involved and get some really solid answers as to what's going on out in these areas.
I think Chris is doing the Yorkie roundup right now. So,
yeah, I had to bribe my people here.
Your people,
my short Yorkie people, and if I don't give them snacks, they start chewing the legs off my stool I'm sitting on, and chewing on each other.
We got a couple of questions I want to throw out there. I don't think we've seen Kent on the show before. Welcome, Kent.
Yes, Kent's a good guy.
He's got a great question. Have you been back to the Tillamook Forest in the last year? Kent.
And Kent's a great guy. He's one of the number one fossil finders out there, bar none. But anyways, Tillamook. No, Tillamook's on the Oregon coast. Amazing area. We've had a lot of amazing finds in that area. When I used to live in Oregon, from 2008 to 2017, Larry Turner, myself, would be out there, weekly. And it's a good 2-hour drive from our house, hour and a half. We'd be out there weekly, and we spent so much time recording stuff, and we had some very unique experiences out there. But can't answer your question. I've not been out there. I've been so tied up here in the Olympics for obvious reasons. But I do hope to get back down there. I miss a lot of you guys. So,
and speaking of Seth, we just last year fall, I was out with Seth doing the On the Trail of Bigfoot Part 2 trail. So that was a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Yeah, what a good guy.
Yep. As well as a couple of my team guys, Ted and Mike Ann, and Tack and Fred Sinek out from Massachusetts. Another question for Mick. Shane, have you heard or recorded any particular interesting audio in the last several months? And has it been analyzed? If so.
Yes. Oh my gosh. In the last several months, yes. Actually, in Southern Washington, we had a crazy experience. I'm going to be talking about this on my podcast Monster X Radio, where we actually had a tree come down close to camp after some quite a gnarly experience. In the nest site, I've recorded many hours of stuff with the help of Chris Spencer. I could place audio out there for up to a month. That record not continuously. It comes on between 6 and 9, and it'll end like 9 in the morning, sort of thing. But we've recorded some amazing audio pieces, and they have been visually analyzed between Chris Spencer, myself, David Ellis specifically. David Ellis of the Olympic Project. He uses a spectrogram, like sonic visualizer, and he uses Audacity. So he's not just listening to the audio; he's looking at it and comparing a lot of those known sounds or unknown sounds or the suspicious stuff to his catalog and library, but also the Macaulay Library of Sounds. And so, yeah, we got some really cool, I think some really unique audio recordings from the nest areas that just kind of help paint a picture of what's going on out there. Pretty cool stuff.
Nice. Guys.
Yeah. Have you found any handprint? Yeah. We covered that a little earlier.
Yeah. Shane, if it's handy, you want to show that handprint one more time for?
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. And this is Cliff Berkman has the original.
Hang on. We're trying to fix the screen to where I'm not big. And let me just try this. Yeah, go ahead. Put it right up. There we are.
Yeah, it's not. It's. I wouldn't say it's like the largest hand. It's definitely not. But it's interesting. There's no if anybody else, I couldn't find any dermal roots or anything like that. Cliff Berkman has the original. He casted it. He's gave me copy. So this is a copy.
How big are the dimensions he was trying to?
Oh shoot! I have it written down off the top of my head, and you'll have to forgive me. I do not know, but let me see if I can. Trying to.
Yeah. Wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
Pretty good sized fingers. Yeah.
It is. It's very good sized fingers. This was found on a slope. Cliff actually used about 15 pounds of plaster to cast this. He had to, it wasn't like this. It was, ginormous. Right. It was on a slope and he did
this is nowhere.
Yeah.
That's the amazing thing. It's not like,
there's no trailer. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. People go, it's a human animal. Maybe it. I don't see how that's even possible, but I did not see a Sasquatch make that hand impression. All I know is that that's the general direction that Todd Hale and I, where we're out there, heard this thing walk, and then it went up behind us up on this hill, and it sat there for a while, and tried to, we were a little spooked out. I'll be honest with you. When you can't see a couple feet in front of you, and you don't know if you're dealing with a bear or something else. You're going to be a little wary. And I just never had something other than a cougar per se circle up behind me. This was a big, large, in charge. And so very cool.
Nice. Now, another question. Do you think a Sasquatch can see in the infrared, which may explain why we're not getting trail cam pictures, a lot of them, or perhaps they hear something in the mechanisms?
You know what? I don't have a lot to. I don't know. It's a possibility. I don't know. I really do believe this though. I really believe, like up here in Washington, there are a lot of trail cameras out there, but you're trying to get something like that's a moving needle in a haystack. And, the cliche, you put a picture frame, someone puts a picture up in your house and you notice it. I think Sasquatch notices this stuff. What I've really focused in on lately is okay, say they can smell it, hear it, whatever. Where is the best place to put these things? And I often say it's got to be near a creek or a river. How many times have you heard a report, Steve, or read a report where someone's walking along a river and there's a Sasquatch doing something in the river, or someone's fishing and here comes a Sasquatch? It's almost like they're both surprised. Both parties are like, whoa, there's a human. Oh, there's a Sasquatch. Yeah. What's going on with that? Well, you got noise from the river. You got different smells along a river. And I often, not that you put a camera right on a game cam right on the river, but place it really close. I think it'll help cover the noise. It'll help cover the smell. Now infrared, I don't know. It's another possibility. I just think there's just not as many cameras out there as people like to believe, and it's kind of arrogant to say, I'm going to go put a camera out there and I haven't got a Sasquatch on camera. They must see it. I don't know. Maybe.
I think they're just like needles in a haystack, really. And you put a camera out. You're covering this amount of area, and hopefully you'll coming out too.
One other thing, quick. So I do actually. So in the beginning of 2017, when I moved up to Washington, I stayed in my travel trailer on a buddy's property that was a few air miles away from the nest site, basically. Well, a little bit more than that. He said to use this property because, one, I needed a place to stay in my trailer until my house foreclosed. But there was a logging gate that two different loggers within a couple of months of each other had seen what they would call a family unit of Sasquatch walking by this gate or near that area. So I camped out there, and what I did was I put game cameras on my travel trailer itself. Not so they wouldn't stick out. They looked like a part of the vehicle. Well, for 2 weeks, I was out there for about a month. But for the first 2 weeks, I was getting all the usual suspects: raccoons, deer, coyotes, you name it. one night my wife woke me up because I left the cooler outside, and the cooler I could hear, she woke me up and said, listen, I hear the ice shuffling around the cooler. I'm like, oh crap, a bear. And I left the cooler outside. I get up, I open the door up, I look around, I don't see anything, nothing. The cooler looked like it had been shifted. I'm like, it's gone. I'm tired. I'm going back to bed. But gets up, I'll go out and shoo it off. Next morning, I wake up, I check my game cameras. The game camera that was on my wheel well on the right side, something had triggered it, but there was nothing on it. The one on the bumper of my travel trailer caught a bipedal figure walking by. Now, it was really close to the camera. It was a Wild Game Innovation, an older camera, no sound. But it was really close, but it's clearly bipedal. Whatever it is, I've done recreations, and this thing's much bigger than me. We're talking about the month of February. It's about 28 degrees, and this was about 2 o'clock in the morning in a remote area. And it's not a bear. This thing moves too fluidly. You can see an arm. Actually, when the arm comes by the camera, it looks like a triangle shape because just the pixelation and the movement. I did the same thing, and my arm looks the same, but much smaller. This thing's massive. So you can get stuff on game cameras. You just got to be smarter, right? And honestly, just be absolutely freaking lucky. I mean, it's just that.
Yeah. I mean, I've deployed so many trail cameras over the years. I haven't even gotten a deer on one.
Yep.
And there's 3 million deer in New York State. It's like, okay. Next question from Timmy Boy. Good to see you, Timmy Boy, again. Do you think Bigfoot in your area are more likely to come to you at camp? Seems we get less interaction walking around doing knocks and calls.
That's another good question. I think, if you're camping in an area and they're interested, or, humans, we can be very unpredictable, but when we're camping, we're pretty predictable. I personally, I don't do a whole lot of calls or knocks at all. What I do is I do a lot of daytime traversing. I like to make myself known. That means covering a lot of ground off trail. I'm trying to basically at night when I'm camping, I'm trying to track something back to my camp spot. That's all I want, because I could therm it. I don't do a whole lot of night walks anymore. I think if something's, go back to my encounter in 2011, that really shifted my opinion on a lot of things. We were chopping wood, which sounds like a knock. We were making noise. We were laughing and, just being obnoxious. And I get my sighting. We were all sitting around the fire. There you go.
Having a hoot and holler. And guess what? I decided to go out to my car, and I'm going to just shine my light up this way while everybody's at the camp. Big blazing fire. It's October. There's no leaves on the trees, so you can clearly see the fire from the road, the dirt road. Shine it the other way, and there it is watching the camp.
Yeah, Bart Catino.
Oh, yeah.
Bart Catino, the same thing up in an area he was out with, I think, Tom Yamrone and Cliff Erickman years and years ago. His first sighting up here in Washington, same thing. He left the camp. They're all by the campfire, and he went to go take a leak. He gets back, grabs his therm, and starts therming, and there's the Sasquatch watching the camp. So, yeah.
Yeah, you're hitting. I mean, my 2013 got a therm of one we believe was one walking along the tributary that goes between the Pulteney River and East Bay and up near Whitehall.
Bam.
And there's this thing. Yeah, it's 9:30 at night. It's September, October. It's pitch black out. And there's something we can't hear it. We can't even see it, but we therm it, and there it is walking.
Wow. Yeah.
And then into the woods. And there's no light. We went up to where the road is. It would have to climb up a 40-degree embankment, and nothing. We went out there, nothing. Zip. So, okay, Mick's got another question. I've heard you describe the visual method of examining recorded audio waves on Monster X Radio. Can you elaborate for those who aren't familiar with that? It can reveal more than what humans can hear.
Yeah, I mean, it does take practice. Like with Sonic, there's other programs out there. You could use Audacity, and Audacity and Sonic Visualizer are both free programs. But basically, you're looking at a spectrograph, and you're basically listening. Because sometimes, even on these spectrographs or spectrograms, you'll miss stuff that your ear will pick up. So I use a little bit of both. As you get more familiar with it, you can start looking at the different frequencies, and you kind of key on certain ranges and certain sounds, like a lot of animals like barred owl. I mean, a lot of them, they have their own signature. Like my voice has a signature, Steve, your voice, Chris, your voice, they have signatures. And so you can start, if you look at the stuff long enough, you'll start to realize, okay, that's a frog, that's a cricket, that's a coyote, that's a crow. And so you could visually look at this stuff. And these are free programs. You do want to become familiar with them. You want to go through some tutorials. and there's lots of them on YouTube. But they will, a lot of times you don't hear something, but you'll see it on Sonic Visualizer, and then you can blow it up, extract it, play around with it during the different features, and you'll be amazed at, and then you can, in a lot of cases, you can kind of gauge a distance as to where, or direction, depending on where your audio is at. That's why I like to play no less than 3 audio recorders out when I'm out. I like at least 3. Then I can kind of triangulize an area. But Sonic Visualizer, you can really, it's neat. You're like, I don't hear it, but I can see it. And then you can blow it up, amp it up. And you got to be careful with that too. You can't, it can distort stuff. And, but yes, I highly recommend if you're into audio recording. I use Tascams, DR05s, and a few others, Edaroyals, and a few other recorders. But the one thing about Tascam that's really cool is that you can record in 28 increments, segments. It'll continue to record, but it'll break it up, and so it's easy to vet and upload into those programs. And it's a lot of fun. It really is. And you can cover a lot more audio quickly by looking at it than just listening. I mean, I remember those days where I would record for, a couple of nights and I'd sit there and listen.
Yeah.
Fast forward, listen. Looking at it is so much simpler.
So much easier than using tape.
Yeah.
Remember the good old days you used to use a tape recording?
Right. Exactly.
Here's an interesting thing is that, I've done that for so many years on Audacity and stuff like that. And after a while, it's kind of funny because I do some paranormal stuff now. And I was just a natural at putting it in there because I know what people's signatures look like. And then all of a sudden I see this little thing. Wait a minute, let's look right here. And sure enough, there's
bam. Yeah.
There. Yeah. So, but the other kick is if you little money, one of the neat programs that I use is VideoPad and AudioPad. And the nice thing, make a copy of the video, and you can take the copy of the video and you can actually split the audio track. It pops it up into the audio. You can enhance it and then put it back in the video in the exact same place.
Wow.
Which
Very
is
cool.
really cool. So if you have a
Cool.
section that you need to amplify, you always keep the original, of course, but
right. Very cool.
So that's kind of a cool. I think they're like $60 or $70. And I also use to, like, people ask me, like, some of the Pigeon film or the New York Baby video that people talk about. A lot of those enhancements I did using a VideoPad because you can zoom in and then it actually gives you a fairly crisp zoom in. So,
badass.
So it works really well. And then there's a free version if you want to use it on like a tablet or something like that, and you can just pop it on there and do the same thing. And that's a free version. So I don't know why the tablet stuff and the phone stuff is free. Anyway. So what's next? I mean, I know you're still breaking stuff down. What are your plans for 2021, provided that we're not wearing masks by the end of the year?
At this point in time, I've been trying not to make too many plans because it's 21, or this year it's like holding my beer sort of set up with 2020. I don't know. I do have a lot of plans. Like I said, at the end of this month, we're going to be doing a week-long excursion. But I'm out, where I moved up to Washington specifically to continue with the research, making headway and working with individuals, being close to the Olympics. From where I live, it's about a 2-hour drive, not that far. Of course, hiking time and all that. So my goal down the road here is to just continue plugging away with this, finding newer nests. Like just before the show, I was chatting with you guys. I just got back from checking out some area that this guy found these impressions at, and they're interesting. They're interesting impressions. So just doing that sort of thing. I do have a couple of speaking engagements. They got one in Ohio tentatively in May. Who knows? I don't. I'm fingers crossed that happens. But
that's kind of like,
yeah. Who knows? So I'm not trying to make a whole lot of plans other than I'm very lucky. I can get out to the woods, and I can get out to the woods really quick. And there's a lot of opportunities to record audio and do stuff of that nature and work with the friends and family I have here built up. I'm just not. I'm trying to live every day, as it comes at me, just like everybody else, And so I just, hey, if you can get out in the woods, or just make yourself a lot happier and quit paying attention to the news because that'll drive you nuts.
One of the things that kind of struck a chord with me about just hanging out in camp and stuff like that. I went to an area and I would go there 6 times a year. And I did it pretty straight for like 15 years. And a lot of times there would be nothing. Sudden, things would start to happen. And one of the things I always did after a while, and I think they have some kind of thought whether or not a particular person, I mean, primates can recognize different primates. So, they if they see me all the time, okay, I know that person. I know they're not going to do nothing. They may see Chris Bennett and go, "Uh-oh, we're going to get out of here before he kicks a Yorkie." And Chris, you're on mute, just to let you know.
Yeah, I did that on purpose, Steve, because I'm having a little bit of a revolt here. They're really barking. Maybe they'll calm down in a few minutes. Trying to save you guys' ears.
But what I would always do is after a while, when I got there, I would just let out about 3 or 4 whoops, almost like, "Hey, it's me, I'm back." Set my camp up, do stuff, and at night stuff would start to happen. Especially around the dusk hours, things would start happening.
Right.
And it got to the point where I was like 2011. There was like we could hear 3 different approaches coming, and then a couple of years later there was only 2. But it was what the weirdest thing was. I went down the field with down the road with another field researcher, and we could hear us being paralleled on both sides of the road. And that was kind of freaky. So he came back. He's a hunter. He does all that stuff.
He tried.
Sorry, guys. I wasn't quick enough on the mute button there.
Stop kicking that dog. Anyway, so I sent him down with a couple other to them. They're like, "Yeah, we came back. Something's following us on both sides of the." And the amazing thing is, animals would do that. And
right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a deer. A deer go the other way. A bear go the other way. So, and those are the 3 main animals in that particular area of the woods. And maybe once we saw a fox, but we never really hear any fox or anything. So it was like the weirdest thing. I mean, do you get any kind of escorts or any kind of stuff like that where you're being followed or anything?
That our time out in the nest area, especially with Todd Hale and I, we definitely had that feeling and heard, I think circle up behind us. I know when I was specifically down in the Tillamook area, we had a few strange experiences like that. Like something was paralleling us. In fact, Gunnar Monson and Larry Turner, both OP members, they were down there one time and they had just that sort of very scenario but they were also getting like this, there was almost like a vibration, it's hard to explain. They have it recorded and it's one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. It's almost like a chest thing, like a guttural thing, but it's following them and it's basically walking. It sounded like it was walking them out and they were pretty freaked out. So occasionally, yes, I've had a few experiences like that. And then you can hit that wall too. You're like, oh, you just got to turn around. You just go.
And my philosophy escorting people out and kind of intimidating. And to me, that was always a sign that, hey, you're in the right area. Because the only time primates do that is if they're in their territory. You're invading their home. So if you can find that sweet spot where you're not invading that home, but pique that curiosity, like set up a camp.
Yeah.
That's when you're going to start getting all that fun. Timmy Boy got another question too. It's a general question. What would provoke a Bigfoot to attack you? I ask because you hear all these supposed attacks on people are just camping. It seems weird as a mother and are young. And I'll start off by saying, my research, I mean, I did a lot of primate behavior research, and species rarely attack primates of other species. It can happen. There are some cultural differences where that may happen. Like there are some chimps that will attack other primates. There are, just like there are some tribes or cultural differences where they eat monkey or they wear offended. That's our primate instinct right there. When we see a dead primate, it's like, oh my God, that's horrible. And you're right. I think these supposed attacks are kind of weird on people just camping. Even if you plop down in their territory, they may get a little gnarly, try to get you out, but I don't see them attacking people necessarily, unless they're being provoked in some manner that, was never said. But Shane?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much covered it there, Steve. I mean, one of the other things I'll mention, I mean, I think those attacks are rare. If anything else, it's maybe just intimidation, to get the heck out of here. Like what I think happened with me personally. I think sometimes I talked to this individual who was camping in an area of the Gimpert Pinchot up here in Washington, and they were out, young guys, 18, this many years ago. We're out in an area camping for about, they were going to camp for like 8 nights. They ended up doing like 6 because they basically got chased out. But I think they just kind of, they weren't being predictable because they were, most people camp 1, 2, 3 days. We're talking about a logging road, remote area. They stayed there welcome. And they were, I mean, I got the audio in hand. It's pretty gnarly. They were basically forced out of there. So I think being attacked, I mean, not many people get attacked, but they may get intimidated. And so intimidation, I mean, bears, a lot of times a bear will bluff charge you, and it's all intimidation. Look at what's that video with that cougar chasing that guy with the cell phone down the road when it came up. Yeah, that cat was just intimidating. If we wanted to attack them, that guy would have been on the ground. Yeah, get out of here. That's all. It's intimidation. So a lot of people would look at it and go, "Oh, that guy was attacked." No, if he was attacked, he would have known about it. He was intimidated. Get the heck out of here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I always carry a steak in your backpack. There you go.
Bam. Or a slow friend.
Yeah, I bet you that cat will go, well, hell, what's scaring him? I'm going to take off with the beef. Amazing. So I know you mentioned Squatch-Metrics or Squatcher-Metrics and the Olympic Project and the Zoo Book. Books where,
Sorry, Steve, I lost you there, Steve.
I think everything went kind of dead there for a second.
It cut out a little bit. Yeah.
So, do you want to throw out some sites that some of the stuff has been like? Is it squatchermetrics.com or?
No, Squatcher-Metrics. I'm not. It's not my thing, but I highly recommend Squatcher-Metrics for data. In fact, a lot of people be out there listening. If you have questions about certain areas and certain data points, reach out to Squatch-Metrics. He's on Facebook and Instagram. He's working on some other stuff. He's actually putting some books together. And it's just data oriented. He's got quite the background for data, and so it's the Sasquatch stuff's a shoehorn for him. And actually, he doesn't even live in the States here, but he comes to the States quite often. Not COVID recently, apparently, but Monster X Radio. We're gonna be pumping out a lot more shows here. In fact, I had Steve on the show years and years ago. It was one of my favorite shows, and you can find us on limitproject.com. Which is we're really actively updating that website. We kind of let it go stagnant, but we're trying to keep people interested in what we're doing, but also just kind of sharing some stuff. A lot of people ask us questions, and so limitproject.com, Monster X Radio. Obviously, I'm working with Project Zoo Book. I'm a core member on there as well. So just a lot of cool, exciting stuff. And if you're interested, reach out to me. I really appreciate, Chris, Steve, you guys having me on the show. I'm a big fan of the show, and you guys and Steve, definitely a lot of the stuff you've done over the years. Big fan.
Oh, thank you. The last question I have: does your wife tolerate all this involvement in Bigfoot very well?
Yeah, that's I'll tell you what, if you don't have a good woman by your side, you're probably in a lot of trouble, because I do spend an ungodly amount of time in the woods. I do both camping and hiking and exploring. But I I have a wonderful, amazing wife that puts up with me, both in, putting me buying stuff, spending gas money, batteries, and buying new equipment, and time out in the woods.
This
and
Amazon box in here.
Oh yeah. So, but I'm very lucky. But I'm fortunate because she does get out and camp with me periodically. My 9-year-old, my daughter, she's amazing. She'd rather, we have a travel trailer, but she's like me. We'd rather be in a tent. And so, very lucky that way. And she does put up with me, fortunately.
Awesome. Any last questions from you, Chris? Well,
that's it, Steve. I'm gonna have to mute out again any second now, but I'm sorry for the Yorkie interruptions. But they got a little excited here. I think we had a visitor, and they always let you know when somebody's here, regardless whether you want them to or not. But,
or regardless of whether you want the person there or not.
Yeah, I did like Kite's suggestion there. It said how to get attacked by a Squatch. Chris, take all your Yorkies out into the woods. Yeah. Yeah, probably get some DNA evidence from the ankles.
Either that or the Squatchers are like, we're out of here.
Oh, man. But
anyway.
Before we go, I want to thank Shane for coming on. It's been an honor having you here, buddy.
Oh,
you've been a super guest, man. And appreciate it, buddy. And I'd like to thank all the audience. Oh, my gosh, you guys had so many great questions. This show was only possible with your help. I mean, I appreciate it. If you're watching us on YouTube for the first time, please hit like, subscribe, share, ring the bell, whatever.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah, it helps us with the algorithm. And it helps us rank better in the search. So appreciate it.
That's right. And of course, like I said, we love all you guys out there, our audience, because we got one of the smartest audience out there.
Oh yeah,
great sense of humor. We always have a good time. We usually start the show off we got into it real good tonight, and that's to the man you see down there, Mr. Shane Corson, great guest, host of Monster X Radio. You got to check that show out as well. And you'll find it and subscribe to it, listen to it, take it all in, because this is the real stuff. This is people going out seeing Sasquatch every day and talking to them and communing with them and making bad political predictions and there's a whole backstory to that too, but I'm not going there. Mick asked, what about the Diet Peach Snapple? Well, for now, we'll have to drink up next week. In fact, I'm actually got a whole jug of peach mango Snapple, or not peach mango Snapple, but peach mango tea. So, but running jokey. So anyway, as always, I want to thank everybody for coming in. Everybody a healthy and safe week. God bless. And of course, keep on squatching. We'll see you all here next week, Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. if you're on the West Coast. And who the hell knows what mountain time is? Anyway.
Thanks, guys.
We'll catch you all next week, friends. And
hey, folks, you've been watching Squatch-D TV. Join us each week, Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, for the latest on the Bigfoot mystery. As always, we thank you for being our loyal viewers and encourage all to subscribe to our YouTube page at youtube.com/Steve Kulls. As always, have a great week. Stay safe. God bless. And keep on squatching.